Before there were Bugattis and Koenigseggs, before the world fell in love with electric hypercars and futuristic silence, there was a monster born from fire and fury. The Jaguar XJ220, a name that doesn't just roll off the tongue, but roars through history like a myth forged in metal. And today, we're not just admiring it. Today, we're lighting it up. This is no ordinary burnout. This is the wildest burnout the Jaguar XJ220 has ever unleashed. Smoke, fire, and raw, unfiltered V6 violence. Let's dive into the origin of this beast, and then watch it burn rubber like no other. 1. The XJ220, born from a dream. To understand the madness you're about to witness, you need to know where the XJ220 came from. The year was 1988. Jaguar's engineers, not their marketing team, not the boardroom suits, but the actual engineers, gathered in secret. What started as a passion project inside Jaguar's Saturday Club would morph into something legendary. They wanted to make the fastest car in the world. Something that would dominate Le Mans, beat Ferrari and Porsche, and leave a trail of vaporized egos in its wake. The result? A low-slung, alien-looking prototype with a monstrous V12, all-wheel drive, and a promise, 220 miles per hour. That promise? It gave the XJ220 its name. Jaguar. Experimental. 220 miles per hour. A dream that was about to burst into flame, literally and figuratively. 2. From hype to controversy. Narration. When Jaguar unveiled the concept, the automotive world lost its mind. It was sleek. Aggressive. Faster than anything else on paper. Pre-orders flooded in. People were desperate to own the car of the future. But when reality hit, it didn't come quietly. The production model dropped the V12. Gone. The all-wheel drive? Removed. In its place, a 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged V6 borrowed from Jaguar's Group C race cars. Fans felt betrayed. Some even sued Jaguar. But here's the plot twist. The production version turned out even faster. This wasn't a compromise. It was a tactical nuke wrapped in aluminum. 3. The fire within. Specs that scorch. Underneath that flowing bodywork sat the Jaguar JR V6, a twin-turbocharged V6 that pumped out 542 horsepower and 475 pound-foot of torque. That engine didn't purr. It screamed. And when it screamed, it hurled this 3,000-pound monster from 0 to 60 in just 3.6 seconds, all the way to 212 miles per hour. Only the McLaren F1 was faster. Think about that. No traction control. No launch assist. Just pure driver versus physics. And the tires? They were custom made by Bridgestone. Because nothing off the shelf could handle what this car was about to do. And now, those very tires are about to ignite. 4. Setting the stage. The burnout setup. To pull off a burnout worthy of the XJ220's name, we needed the right ingredients. Dry tarmac. Wide open space. And a machine that's barely been let off its leash in decades. This isn't some rear-wheel drive muscle car with a cheap trick. This is a $500,000 hypercar, rare, exotic, and completely unforgiving. The tires? Custom replicas of the original Bridgestone IE71S. The fuel? 102-octane race mix. The driver? Let's just say, someone who knows how to dance with fire. The goal? Light it up. Burn it down. And show the world what the Jaguar XJ220 was always meant to do. 5. The burnout begins, raw, smoke, and fury. The engine roars to life. Boost builds. Flames rise. And then, in an instant the tires break loose. Smoke billows into the sky like a volcano. The twin turbos whistle violently between shifts. The rear end fishtails not out of control but in command. This is mechanical mayhem. Controlled chaos. A beast that waited 30 years to finally breathe fire. As the rear wheels melt down to the cords, flames lick the edges of the wheel wells. The car isn't just performing. It's raging. The Jaguar XJ220 doesn't do quiet. It doesn't do subtle. It announces itself with fury, shrouded in a storm of rubber and flame. And right now, it's burning its legacy into the asphalt. 6. Aftermath. The smell of victory and tires. As the smoke clears, What's left is more than just tire marks. It's history branded into the pavement. The Jaguar XJ220 was a misunderstood legend. A car caught between expectation and execution. But moments like this, brutal, raw, and unapologetically loud, remind us why we fall in love with machines. This wasn't just a burnout. It was a release of decades of criticism, doubt, and myths. A cathartic combustion of all the what-ifs. And at the center of it all, a car that once tried to break the sound barrier of the 90s, and almost succeeded. 7. The legend reborn through smoke. The Jaguar XJ220 will never be the loudest car at the show. But it will be the one you never forget. Because unlike many cars that age gracefully, the XJ220 aged like a dragon, silent for years, until someone dared to wake it. And today, you witnessed what happens when that fire is finally set free. No traction control. No mercy. No regrets. Just one of the most misunderstood supercars in history doing exactly what it was born to do. Burn everything down. 8. Engineering rebellion, the V6 controversy revisited. Let's rewind to what made this burnout even possible, that engine. The Jaguar V6 used in the XJ220 was not your average six-cylinder. This was a race-bred heart, born on the tarmac of Group C endurance battles, where Jaguar's XJR10 and XJR11 machines once fought tooth and nail against Porsche and Mercedes. Dual overhead cams, twin turbochargers, dry sump lubrication, and forged internals that begged for punishment. While purists cried betrayal over the dropped V12, engineers knew the truth. This V6 could rev harder, spool faster, and push hotter air into combustion with lethal accuracy. The burnout we witnessed? It's a rebellion. A declaration that engineering always trumps nostalgia. This car wasn't what people expected, it was better. And louder. 9. The sound of speed. Audio analysis of a burnout beast. Every burnout has a sound signature. But the XJ220? It doesn't growl, it shrieks. Listen closely and you'll hear it. The low-end rumble that rises into a piercing scream, followed by violent compressor surge and the sharp crack of fuel detonating under peak boost. This isn't just noise. It's music, for gearheads. Each downshift spits flames. Each throttle stab whips the turbos into a frenzy. Each tire chirp becomes a note in a symphony of mechanical rage. Forget your favorite song. The XJ220 Burnout is the ultimate soundtrack. And it plays in fire. 10. Why burnouts matter. Rituals of respect. Some might ask, why burn rubber? Why destroy those tires? Because burnouts aren't mindless destruction. They're rituals, a driver's version of fireworks. Celebration. Domination. Release. A burnout is a mechanical roar that says, I'm here. I'm alive. And I will not be forgotten. For the XJ220, a car once scorned by its own fans, this burnout is a redemption arc. It's not about being reckless. It's about proving that legacy doesn't fade, it burns brighter than ever when finally set free. 11. Collector's Gold. How the XJ220 became a holy grail. It's ironic. A car once labeled a commercial failure, now commands over $500,000 at auction, sometimes double that for pristine examples. What changed? Time. Perspective. Scarcity. Only 281 road cars were ever made. And many sat idle, preserved by collectors who knew what this car would become. An artifact of ambition. A rolling time capsule of the early 90s supercar war. And now? A piece of performance history, complete with battle scars, turbo hiss, and fire-wrapped tires. This burnout? It didn't lower the car's value. It increased its legend. 12. Resurrected by enthusiasts. The modern-day XJ220 cult. You wouldn't expect a cult following for a British twin-turbo V6 with limited production and tricky maintenance. But here we are. Across the globe, XJ220 owners and fans are forming communities sharing restoration secrets, aftermarket upgrades, and tuning tips. Some are modifying them with new ECUs and boost maps. Some are rebuilding them from the ground up, piece by painstaking piece. It's not just about owning a rare car. It's about bringing a legend back to life with modern tools, global connections, and relentless passion. The burnout we showcased? That's not the end of the XJ220. It's just the start of its second life. 13. The ultimate burnout breakdown, what it took. You think burnouts are easy? Think again. Here's the breakdown of what it took to unleash that XJ220 burnout safely and spectacularly. Tire pressure drop, from 32 psi to 24 to allow a wider contact patch. Turbo boost level, set to 1.2 bar peak for maximum wheel spin. RPM hold zone, between 4,200 to 6,800 to stay in the turbo sweet spot. TCS ABS, disabled. Because the driver needed full control. Brake bias, adjusted to let the rear brake traction first, without locking. And yes, fire suppression was on standby. Because when you're melting decades-old engineering in a fury of smoke, you respect the danger. 14. The asphalt autograph, burnout marks as art. What's left behind after a burnout? For most people, smoke, smell, maybe a ruined tire. But for the XJ220, it left an autograph. Those circular arcs, straight-line scorches, and violent transitions weren't chaos, they were choreography. Each mark tells a story. Where the grip gave up. Where the driver countered the slide. Where the beast bit back. It's art. Asphalt calligraphy. A signature written not in ink, but in rubber, fire, and velocity. And long after the smoke clears, those marks will whisper to those who understand. A legend passed through here. 15. One last ride. The burnout reimagined in slow motion. Let's relive it. In slow motion. Watch as the body squats under throttle. See the tires twist under brutal torque. Watch the exhaust pulse like a cannon. And then, the ignition. The fire. The fury. Each frame reveals the violence and the beauty of a machine operating at the edge of its ability. Every camera angle becomes a painting. Every rotation, a memory forged in motion. Because you'll never see another car quite like this. And even if you did, it wouldn't burn like this one did. This was the wildest Jaguar burnout ever. And you were part of it. 16. Fire and emotion. Why the XJ220 still makes us feel something. Some cars are fast. Some are loud. But very few make you feel something. The Jaguar XJ220 is one of them. Not because it was perfect. Not because it broke every record. But because it tried. Because it dared. Dared to aim for the stars with V12 dreams, dared to break rules with a V6 soul, and dared to be different in an era that feared different. The burnout wasn't just smoke and speed. It was emotion, raw, honest, unapologetic emotion pouring from a machine that once broke hearts, and now wins them all over again. 17. The forgotten rivalries, who the XJ220 was meant to beat. Back in the early 90s, the XJ220 was stepping onto a battlefield, one filled with icons. The Ferrari F40, twin-turbo, raw and brutal. The Porsche 959, tech-heavy, AWD wizardry. The Bugatti EB110 quad-turbo madness from Modena. And lurking just over the horizon, the McLaren F1. Each had its philosophy, its fan base, its bite. And yet, the XJ220 had the fastest top speed 217 miles per hour, confirmed at Nardo in 1992, until the McLaren F1 knocked it off the throne. This burnout? It was a defiant cry from a car that said, I was there. I fought. And I still burn hotter than the rest. 18. The design that stunned a generation. You don't forget how this car looks. That silhouette, low, long, and feline. Those hidden headlamps, like a hunter in the shadows. The sculpted hips, the glass canopy, the aero-tuned rear. Everything about the XJ220 whispered speed, even when it was standing still. Its design was timeless. In an age of boxy cars, the XJ220 was a liquid metal predator. And today, under fire and smoke, that same design looks otherworldly, a supercar from a parallel future that chose combustion over silence. 19. The road car that was too wild for the road. Let's face it, the XJ220 was never meant to pick up groceries. It was too wide for parking garages. Too low for speed bumps. Too hot to idle in traffic. This wasn't a road car. It was a barely tamed prototype, shoved into production. Even the gearshift felt like you were arming a weapon. Driving it daily? You'd hate it. But driving it the way it was meant to be driven, full boost, full send? You'd never forget it. It was designed for violence, not convenience. And that's why it's perfect. 20 Flames of Redemption. The internet changed everything. 4 years, the XJ220 was misunderstood. The internet changed that. Suddenly, people could see it in action. Hear it roar. Watch it perform. Clips of its twin-turbo V6 setting fire to the road. Reviewers calling it a time capsule of British lunacy. Fans sharing stories of spotting one in the wild and never forgetting it. The burnout that went viral? It wasn't just smoke. It was redemption, framed in 16:9 and streamed worldwide. The internet gave the XJ220 a second chance, and the car grabbed it with both tires. 21. A rare breed. What makes the XJ220 one of one? You could buy a Ferrari. You could buy a Porsche. But you could never buy something quite like the XJ220. Why? Because no other car had this mix. Twin-turbo V6 with racing roots. Aluminum monocoque chassis. Unfiltered analog feel with 200+ mph speed. Even the production process was wild. Each XJ220 was hand-built at Jaguar Sport in Oxfordshire, a facility shared with the TWR race team. From custom tires to bespoke interior fittings, every unit was a fingerprint. The burnout? That was its signature. 22. Under the radar, the quiet rise in value. Visuals, auction house. While other supercars screamed for attention, the XJ220 waited. Quiet. Patient. Watching. And now? Its value has skyrocketed. Once criticized as overpriced, now praised as undervalued genius. It's no longer the punchline, it's the trophy. Collectors who used to scoff are now scouring the planet for clean examples. And those who bought one early? They're sitting on a fire-breathing fortune. 23. Legacy through flame. The XJ220 in car culture. Whether in Need for Speed, Gran Turismo, or countless car magazine centerfolds, the XJ220 left a fingerprint on culture. It became an icon not just for its numbers, but for its mystique. You didn't see it often. You didn't hear it often. But when you did, you remembered. Even today, car spotters treat the XJ220 like a ghost sighting. And the burnout? That was a message sent across generations. Remember me now. 24. Can it be reborn? Restomods, EV conversions, and the XJ220's future. What if the XJ220 came back? Some believe it could reimagined as an EV, reborn as a hybrid, or revived through a restomod revolution. Custom shops are already toying with the idea, updating the interior tech, rebuilding the engine with modern internals, even swapping in electric motors. But the question is, should they? Can you really improve on something so raw? Or should the XJ220 be left, just as it is? Maybe the burnout was the answer. Maybe that was its rebirth through fire, not firmware. 25. Lessons from the fire. What the XJ220 taught the car world. Every great car teaches something. The XJ220 taught us that perfection isn't always the goal. That dreams evolve. That failures can become icons. It taught us that sometimes, being misunderstood means you're ahead of your time. And most importantly, it taught us this. Legacy isn't built in boardrooms. It's built in smoke. In fire. In fearless engineering. That burnout wasn't the end of a story, it was the spark of something eternal. The Jaguar XJ220 didn't just burn rubber. It burned itself into history. 26. XJ220 vs the world. Could it still hold its own today? Fast forward to today. We live in the age of digital dashboards, 1,500 horsepower AWD monsters, launch control, and whisper-quiet EV hypercars. So the question is, could the XJ220 still compete? On paper? No traction control. No paddle shifters. No AI-managed torque vectoring. Just a 542 horsepower twin-turbo V6 and a terrified human behind the wheel. But here's the twist. That's what makes it powerful. The rawness. The brutality. The absence of digital filters. It doesn't compete by today's standards, it competes by reminding us what driving used to feel like. And when you factor in emotion, legacy, and visual impact, the XJ220 still burns brighter than most modern machines. 27. Flames in the mirror, reflections from the driver's seat. Let's switch perspective. Imagine you're behind the wheel. The twin turbos hiss, the tires scream, and the world becomes a blur of smoke, noise, and adrenaline. But in those seconds of controlled chaos, something else happens: clarity. You realize you're not just piloting a car. You're holding history. You're dancing with a legacy. You're taming a myth. The XJ220 doesn't hand you its power, it makes you earn it. And when it finally obeys, even for just a moment, you understand why legends are forged in fire. 28. Fire doesn't age. The XJ220 in motion today. Most supercars age out of relevance. They become museum pieces. Static sculptures. Quiet whispers of a loud past. But not the XJ220. Because every time it moves, every time it breathes, it reminds us that fire doesn't age. That true performance never dies. That some designs don't bend to time, they burn through it. It may be over 30 years old. But when the light hits it just right, when the turbos spool and the exhaust crackles, it still looks like the future. 29. What the burnout really meant. Let's decode the fire one last time. That burnout wasn't just a party trick. It wasn't a flex. It was a message. A message to the skeptics. To the purists. To the collectors who left it parked. The XJ220 never needed to be perfect. It needed to be remembered. And now, through that burnout, through that violent ballet of rubber, fire, and fury, it's been re-etched into the memory of car culture. That fire was a torch. And now it's lit. 30. The final flame. One car, one moment, eternal impact. One burnout. One car. One wild, unfiltered, unforgettable moment. The Jaguar XJ220 doesn't belong to just one decade, one class, or one era. It transcends all of them. It was misunderstood. Then it was forgotten. Now, it's immortal. And this burnout, this flaming defiance against time and doubt, will echo forever through every rev, every shift, every firelit rear tire. Because legends don't die. They burn. Some cars are made. Others are born. But very few are forged, like the Jaguar XJ220. Forged in engineering rebellion. Forged in controversy. And today, forged again, in fire. To those who never believed in it, watch it now. To those who waited to see it unleashed, this was for you. And to those still chasing perfection? Sometimes the greatest legends are the ones that rise through smoke. This was the wildest Jaguar burnout ever. This was the XJ220. On fire. Forever.